After an absence from television screens throughout the 90s, the Heisei era was a rebirth of sorts for the Kamen Rider franchise. The Heisei era is absolutely jam-packed with awesome Kamen Riders, great stories, and memorable villains. But what Heisei era Kamen Rider season is the best? That's what we're going to find out today as we count down the top 10 best Heisei Kamen Rider seasons. But of course, let me know your picks in the comments.
I'm a Kamen Rider.
Number 10 is X-Aid. So with X-Aid, the theming of this show is absolutely overflowing. And what I really mean by that is that when they decided that they were going to make a Kamen Rider season about gaming doctors, man did they make a Kamen Rider season about gaming doctors. From the little 8-bit pixely effects, to the cool nostalgic sound effects, reminiscent of retro gaming, this show is extremely stylish. The colors are all vibrant and they pop very well. And I really like the concept of the riders leveling up, just like in a role-playing game. Those of you who are gamers in the audience, I'm sure will be able to appreciate it. Not to mention the solid gold ultimate form with dreads. Absolutely sick. Number 9 is Build. When I started watching this show, I did not expect that I would like it as much as I ended up liking it. The show is written very, very well, and the characters, in general, are pretty likable. I really like the science and engineering motif. It's a really cool concept for a Kamen Rider. Kamen Rider Build has a lot of awesome looking forms, but even if we're just talking about his base form, Rabbit Tank, that in itself looks awesome. The mold of the helmet is very slick and modern looking. And then add to that the fact that red and blue, along with black, is just a great, dynamic looking color scheme. If you're looking for a unique Kamen Rider story with a bunch of awesome looking forms, well, Build is for you. Number 8, Kamen Rider Phase, also known as 555. You know, this show kind of scratches the same itch for me that 01 does. It's sort of like neo-techy, you know, a little bit on the cutting edge of technology, but not so over the edge that it's implausible. You know, you can still imagine the story possibly existing in the real world. As for Phase himself, well, this form gets passed around quite a bit. But of course, black and red are always a striking and dynamic looking color scheme. And I really like that when he uses his Motorola Razr flip phone to henshin, there's this kind of red laser effect that covers his whole body as he's henshining. Pretty cool looking. This show also features Smart Brain, which is a very memorable enemy faction. And yeah, there's some good writing here. Not to mention, all the riders on this show pretty much look cool. Number 7, Kamen Rider Blade. So I really dig the card theme. And I don't mean card theme in the context of they use cards to henshin, i.e. trading cards much like Kamen Rider Yuki. But this show is actually themed around playing cards a little bit, being that Blade's ultimate form is King form. The first intro for this show is just hilarious. I don't really know what they were going for here, but they're basically just standing on a stage and they do different weird things. One dude takes a bite out of his apple, you know, he offers it to you, asks you if you want any. Then this girl has to kick the napkin. This napkin, dude, like it was talking trash to her or something. She's gotta freaking kick it. And then you got this dude who's trying to drink some milk and he just can't pop the top off, like, enough. But in all seriousness, I really like how the story between these different riders plays out. They're very different from each other, but they find common ground along the way. And yeah, King form looks sick. Number 6, Kamen Rider Den-O. So if you're from Japan, I probably don't even need to tell you why this one belongs on the list. This show was wildly successful in Japan. One of the most successful and profitable titles in the history of Toei. And because of that, Den-O was featured in quite a few crossovers in different movies, just to squeeze, every last bit of yen from their consumers. Just kidding. But for real, the time traveling in Den-O is iconic. And like I've said before, Kamen Rider Den-O is proof that Toei can make a good train-themed tokusatsu season. Unlike Tokuger. The images in this show are more than enough to keep it going for a long time. And they're honestly pretty iconic at this point. And I really like how his forms are essentially swapped by him being possessed by different images. Very unique. Number 5, Kamen Rider Kabuto. One of my personal favorites. This show is very unique in the fact that it has 2 layers of armor. Usually, when they first henshin on Kabuto, they'll have kind of a tank form, where they're extra armored and they have extra firepower, but they're not as nimble. And then they cast off. And once they cast off, they look more like a traditional Kamen Rider. But the suits in this show are freaking awesome. This was the very first HD Kamen Rider season. And I think because of that, they really wanted to put extra effort into the suits and the vehicles and monsters and just really make it look good. And I'd say they pulled it off well. I really love the brother-sister relationship between Tendo and his sister, and the fact that he's always making her delicious culinary treats. And this is why I can say in confidence that I've never been hungrier watching a Kamen Rider season than when I was watching Kamen Rider Kabuto.
Amazing! Good!
Oishii! Number 4, Kamen Rider Gio. Now, as an anniversary season, this show is pure fan service, and it's got a really cool time theme. There are few Kamen Riders that look as cool as Oma King Gio. Basically, in this season, there's a lot of crossover with previous riders, as you would expect. But the gimmick of sorts for this show is that over time, Gio and Gaze obtain armor, and these armored forms are based around previous riders. So there's a lot of mix and match styling here. It's really cool. I love how they have kana on their visors. This is Japanese writing, and if you understand Japanese kana, then you'll be able to read their visors. And I think that's a really cool touch. Number 3, Kamen Rider Kiva. Now, if you like Halloween, if you like ghouls, if you like monsters, if you like vampires, well, this is the Kamen Rider season for you, my friend. I myself am a sucker for old school horror movies, so a horror-themed Kamen Rider really tickles my fancy. So the story of Kamen Rider Kiva is told in 2 eras simultaneously, that being the 2000s and the 1980s. Basically, there is a race of vampire-like creatures called Fangires. They live among us, and they seek to overtake humanity. The song in this show is one of the best in the history of Kamen Rider theme songs. And this show also has just a great crop of riders. Of course, you have Kiva himself, and eventually he gains Emperor form, which looks incredible. And you have Dark Kiva. You have Ixa. You have Saga. You have Kivat, Kiva's friendly bat-like companion. And Kiva's suit looks freaking sick. It is the heaviest Kamen Rider suit to date, which should be obvious considering the utter girth of his upper body. Number 2, Kamen Rider Oz. Now, how can you not love Oz? Everything about this show is great, and I do mean everything. First, let's start with the intro. Now, when I first heard this intro, I wasn't super impressed by it, I'm gonna be honest. But by the time I was done watching the show, hell, by the time I had even made it a third of the way through the show, I was already hooked on the song. It was stuck in my head, and I consider it an absolute classic. Eiji is an unlikely hero with a ton of personality. In his past, he experienced a time where he tried to save a young girl and he was unable to. And that failure has consumed him and caused him to be endlessly driven to protect people at all costs. He's very likable, and the first time we're introduced to him, a hole is blown into the side of his room while he's standing in his underwear. And speaking of underwear, Eiji loves to give people underwear as a gift. It's kinda his thing. And the number 1, Heisei era Kamen Rider season, Kamen Rider W. And yeah, it would be easy for me to just be like, it's because green and purple. Although, I do give them a lot of bonus points for that. The fact of the matter is that this show is just themed so well. They knew what they wanted with this season, which was a Prohibition era film noir style detective show within the Kamen Rider universe. And yes, I realize that was a mouthful right there, but just hang with me here. So back in the day in America, there were shows like Dick Tracy. These were shows that were detective shows where they would be in a smoky, dimly lit room, usually with some jazz music playing in the background. This show was a great new beginning of the series after Decade, and it's a strong jumping off point for the second half of the Heisei era. But guys, that's just my list. Let me know yours in the comments, and if you enjoyed this video, it would mean a ton to me if you would smack the shit out of that like button. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time. Boy!